and welcome back to Breaking Notes with your lovely piano player, me, Curtis LaBelle. It is episode 3, and we are going to be talking about chords, which you just saw me playing in a couple of different keys. We're going to be picking a key for our song that we're writing here on Breaking Notes so that we can share with our community and bring everybody together through the celebration of music. And we're going to be going through some chords in order to decide what we want for our verses, our choruses, and our bridge. So let's have a little recap of what we've talked about, shall we? We've talked about form and style, which was our verses and our chorus and our bridge, and we've decided if we're going to be using country, pop, rock, or jazz, or musical theater for our style of song. And we have written out our lyrics. We have written out our verses, we have a chorus, we have a bridge, and we may have a tag if we've decided to have a tag at the end of our song. And you'll hear what that tag does and how it's kind of the period at the end of a paragraph, like I had mentioned in the last episode. But let's head on down to the piano and talk about the chords that we're going to choose and the key we're going to pick from, shall we? Okay, we have 12 keys in our Western world of music to choose from. There are plenty other tones and keys to work with in different styles of music, in different cultures. That's a whole other episode. But right now, let's go through the 12 options that we can choose. And I'm going to explain to you on the piano, and you might have a different instrument. You can figure them out on that one, of course, as well. So let's start with this note here. This is middle C for all of us in the world of piano. And let's move up. C, C sharp, or a D flat. Again, if you have some music theory that you'd like to learn, you can Google or go to your local music store and purchase a theory book or find a friend and do some theory. I know it can be daunting, but it's still fun. At least I think it's fun. So we have C, C sharp, or D flat. We'll do sharps since we're going up. C sharp, D, E sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, and of course back to C. And then that is a sequence that repeats on the piano in a certain amount of octaves. Let's count how many that was. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now we can pick one. We have 12 to choose from. And you can decide which one you like to work with. And then of course, we have now our chords. And after we pick our key, we now have a certain amount of different chords we can work with. So I think we should choose the key of C for our song about bringing the community together through music here on Breaking Notes. So here's C. And in C major, in that key, we have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now, for future reference, those chords in this key are going to sound like this, and they're going to be different, so you can go ahead and do some theory background on that, but let's play them so you can hear them. So now we have 8 to work with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't want you thinking about melody right now. That's a different episode. What I want you to think about right now is the different type of progressions we can choose. Progression meaning what's going to come next after each chord. So for the sake of our song, we're going to choose the following chord progression for our verse. We're going to choose 1, 4, 2, 5. So in this case, that's going to sound like this. 1, 4, 2, 5. And that's going to go over our verse, or under our verse, whichever way you'd like to see the music come together. Next, we have to choose our chord progression for our chorus. So the chorus, we're going to choose 4, a slash chord, which will be 1, C, over 3, and then a 2 chord, and then 5. So that'll be F, C over E, D, G. So if we put our verse and our chorus together, it'll sound like this. And now our bridge is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to play 6, then 2, then 3. A minor, B minor, G. And then we would play our chorus again, twice. Tag. All together, this is what it will sound like. Okay, so we now have a chord progression that is going to be accompanying our verses, our choruses, and our bridge in the form that we have chosen. And of course, we are playing it. Don't worry about playing it in the style you've chosen right now. Play it how you just feel it right now. We can talk about the style a little bit later on, because that'll go with arrangements and instrument choice, which is a couple episodes down. However, first and foremost, we have established a body of this song. We have form, style, verses, choruses, and a key with chords to go with it. This is very exciting. What's great now is that we have the next very important piece of the puzzle, which is the melody. So in episode 4, we're going to be talking about the melody. Join me, and we're going to put the next piece of the puzzle together here on Breaking Notes with your lovely and famous and fabulous little tiny host here, Curtis LaBelle. We'll see you at the next episode. Well, howdy doody. This is Curtis LaBelle here with Breaking Notes. We are at the end of episode 3, where we're talking about feel, form, and all those wonderful things. And Roy has joined us here one more time. Thank you, Roy.
No problem.
I want to pick your brain about not just the feel and the flow of the song that you would work with your band, but you're the drummer. And arguably, that's the heartbeat of the song or whatever you are listening to. and it's quite poetic in its own way. I know one I have heard in the past that if each instrument were to be given a family member in comparison, the bass would be the mother, because it's so nurturing. It has to be solid every single time. It's always there. Your mother's always there. The bass is always there. I don't know what you would call the drums, but as a drummer, what would be the family member that you would make that associated to?
Sometimes, it's almost a child with ADD. Because, we're sporadic. We're sometimes we're off tempo, but not all the time. But
Now, do you play with a click?
all the time.
Perfect.
Yes, constantly.
So let's talk about feel. You are given you had mentioned in the first episode that your guitar player will do a quick mock-up of some electronic drums to give an idea. This is kind of what I'm feeling, that sort of thing. You're given that, and you take that, and you start to develop. Tell me about that process, how you begin to take out your artist part and adding that into the song.
So I try and change it from just like a drum idea to like an actual part. So like the difference being it's just like you're just playing something, but then like you evolve it, and you find your dynamic, and so the verse is lower, the chorus is higher. You find a way to get there. You do the same sort of fills, and the fills get progressively more intense throughout the song because you want it to be a crescendo towards the end of it. And I find that it takes me, I don't know, dozens of times playing the song to finally be happy with what I'm doing. And then I'm always changing it too. Like a year later, it's like, oh, well, this works better here, or this doesn't really translate live, or this is just strictly for a recording.
Translating live, I completely understand, because I know for myself what would be in the studio is going to be, doesn't always work.
No, it doesn't always work.
So I don't want to talk about studio time because that's a different episode, but just really quickly, that's a whole different community in itself.
Sure is.
So stepping back to, you talked about dynamics and you talked about stylistic approaches and how you want to hear it. I personally think that you should be able to take every individual instrument in a band, and each individual instrument should be able to play that song without the other instruments and sell that song just by itself. So being said, your new single with your band, I, as a producer or artist or industry professional, would hope that I should be able to listen to you play that drum part by itself solo, and it should be a song in its own manner.
Right, it should have voicings.
It should have voicings. It should have a journey. So can you, in your own description or your own experience, give me your opinion on how community has dynamics, how community stylistically changes? We have different communities all around. We have a community that's a community of the comic book world. We have the community of the politicians. We have a community of shopaholics. There's different communities, if you will, as opposed to just thinking our community where we are locally as a city or a town. So how do you see the relevance to music and as a drummer stylistically through song and form and dynamic, if you will, how does that relate to community changing and evolving?
Oh, good question. I find that a lot of the the musicians that I listen to influence my playing, and so just that in itself is a community in a way, because I'm pulling ideas from other people who I look up to and would like to play similar to, not the same, but
right.
alongside of.
Right.
And I find that community in that way is very important. It's a tough question.
It is a tough question, and I think it's something that really can't be. I think you said it in the best way you could, that the influence of what art has put out, and that's, I think, as artists, I speak for myself, but I think I can speak for a lot of artists that we want to leave something behind.
Oh, very true. Yes.
We don't necessarily need validation, or although it's nice to get validated.
It most certainly is.
It is really nice to be validated. But at the end of the day, I can certainly say that I am who I am as an artist because of the artists I listen to, because of the community that was back in the 70s when we're listening to a piano rock for me, say, so for Elton John or anything like that. And then that community's still there, but it's evolving, and the demographic of people who are listening to it, the listeners change as well, I think, because the artist is changing and adapting. So I think that might be the only way to answer that question.
Sure, yeah.
Is
Agreed.
with that. Okay. Form, style, all those things, community. If you had one piece of advice to give to the listener who is watching this, either immediately after it has been released, or if it's, I don't know, when we're both on I'm going through puberty. When both of us are on dialysis in wheelchairs watching this at some point when we're 80 years old, laughing and having hopefully maybe a good scotch. What piece of advice can you give that listener who can pick this up 20 years from now or a year from now, that you can give them on anything with community, how to bring it together, or anything that you've learned in the industry?
Sure. Patience is huge. Like, don't be upset about your abilities at the moment. If you continue to practice, you're always going to get better. And that's I've been in bands that have just train wrecked, and we've put the time in, and we've come back, and we've done so much better. I feel like persistence is key.
I agree, and if I can add to that, I would say trust the process. It certainly doesn't happen when you want it to.
No.
In my experience, but somehow it happens, and keep going. The persistence, practice, and surround yourself with the most successful people that you want, so you can learn from the greats, and allow yourself to be open and receiving advice and make mistakes.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I think that's about it. This has been the end of episode 3 with Roy Rhino from New Rationals. All of you have been fantastic. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in episode 4. My name is Curtis LaBelle with Breaking Notes.